Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, it was only a matter of time. Fast-moving brush fires burn in parts of San Diego County, threatening homes, closing roads, and forcing evacuations. The latest on these critical wildfire conditions. Plus, college students are not only dealing with high tuition, many are going hungry. How a local university is helping to feed the problem. And it's the most deadly drug across the nation, while another highly addictive one is making a comeback. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. It's Friday, October 25th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Tripolsi. Back-to-back brush fires break out across the county, forcing evacuations and road closures. Let's start with the latest, the Miller fire in Valley Center. It began around 1 this afternoon off Miller Lane and Colgrade Road. As of now, it has burned nearly 40 acres, but crews have a handle on the fire. More than 1,400 residents were under evacuation orders. That's according to CAL FIRE. Residents in need are urged to go to Valley Center Community Center. And frightening moments for residents in 2 other East County communities as a wildfire this morning forced mandatory evacuations and closed one highway and several roads. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson has more on the Sawday fire.
The Sawday fire blackened more than 100 acres between the East County communities of Ramona and Santa Isabel. CAL FIRE officials began getting 911 calls about 9:30 this morning, and it didn't take long for crews to get to the flames.
There's a fire station that's less than a mile away, and by the time they arrived at scene, 2 to 3 acres had already burned, and the fire was moving very rapidly, being pushed to the west by an east wind. So they knew right away that we were going to have a rapidly expanding incident.
This is exactly what firefighters were worried about. They didn't want to have a wildfire during a windy Santa Ana condition because the chances of that wildfire moving quickly go up significantly. This fire has moved into a canyon area with a lot of heavy fuels, and as you can see here, they've got it primarily under control. That's because they're attacking it on the ground and they're attacking it from the air. Helicopters circled the area for most of the morning, and so did CAL FIRE's fixed-wing planes, but the battle didn't begin that way.
Early into the incident, the winds were significant to the point where our fixed-wing air tankers, it was too turbulent for them to even be able to drop retardant after the first drop. We transitioned that to a rotor wing, our helicopters, which remained effective.
This fire ignited near where the catastrophic Witch Creek fire was born, that blaze burning more than 100,000 acres and destroying more than 1,000 structures in 2007. That fire also began during a Santa Ana condition, although the winds were more than twice as strong back then.
I was scared. I started panicking and I didn't know what to do.
Denise Blanco's mom lives nearby and was babysitting Denise's young son. Blanco rushed to the scene this morning because she remembers what happened 12 years ago.
In 2007, everything happened that way. It was really bad and really scary to think about all those people losing their houses and stuff.
This fire, for the most part, under control here. Fire crews are still dropping water from the air and retardant from the air, and there are hand crews on the ground that are taking care of hot spots, but the big part of the threat has been abated, and it's all because firefighters reacted swiftly and with force. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
And a power outage update right now. We have a map showing the locations. Just over 17,000 SDG&E customers are without electricity, and these were planned outages due to the extreme conditions. 17 East County communities, all, for example, parts of Alpine, Campo, Julian, Poway, Ramona, and Warner Springs, to name a few. Governor Gavin Newsom announced today that San Diego is one of 4 cities in the state that will receive $500,000 in funding to support residents affected by the power outages. And there are several SDG&E resource centers set up as well. We have a list on the screen: Descanso Branch Library, Whispering Winds Catholic Camp in Julian, Pine Valley Improvement Club, Potrero Community Center, Dulzura Community Center, Warner Springs Resource Center, Morena Community Church in Campo, and the Valley Center Branch Library. And for more information on all these locations and outages, you can go to our website, kpbs.org. Classes were canceled today at 4 East County school districts as well as Cal State San Marcos. A down power line sparked a fire and power outage there. Also this morning, firefighters attacked a brush fire along the 94 in Golden Hill, briefly evacuating an apartment building near 33rd and C Streets. The cause of that is still unknown, and flames burned dangerously close to a West San Ysidro Boulevard apartment complex, forcing residents to evacuate early this morning. No injuries, and the cause is still under investigation. Let's take a look now at the weather conditions countywide and what to expect. Let's go to meteorologist Daji Aswad for more.
In the past 24 hours, we have seen some very impressive peak wind gusts, and Big Black Mountain nearing 90-mile-per-hour gusts were reported. Alpine Ross 66-mile-per-hour gusts were reported. And even some cities not on this list were still feeling breezes upwards to 40 miles per hour on the lesser end. And that's really what's been fueling these fires, as well as low humidity. That will continue through this evening. Then we'll see some relief as we move into Saturday as a bit more moisture comes back into play. But past Saturday into your Sunday and Monday, drier air comes in from the north, and winds will kick back up due to a cold front. So late Saturday, Sunday into Monday, extreme low humidity, strong winds will return, and that increases that fire threat once again.
Heavy smoke covers the sky across the state as wildfires engulf acres of land and threaten homes. The Tick Fire is burning just north of Los Angeles, scorching more than 4,000 acres in just a few hours. Governor Gavin Newsom has issued an emergency proclamation for several counties. Nadia Romero reports.
The Tick Fire in Southern California, engulfing homes, evacuations mounting.
This is the largest evacuation that we've had in Santa Clarita.
A similar scene at the Kincaid Fire in Northern California, forcing hundreds there to flee.
Geyserville is under mandatory evacuation,
where flames already scorched more than 20,000 acres.
The winds are just blowing embers all over the roads,
with bad air quality spreading.
Those particulates can go deep down into your lungs.
Back in Southern California, on the ground in Santa Clarita, fire crews working overtime as the howling winds help the flames spread, battling against the LA County Fire Department.
Approximately 20-mile-per-hour winds with gusts up to 30 to 40 mile per hour. So we're going to work on containment.
Up north, vineyards are burning in Sonoma County's wine country as planes drop retardant trying to suppress the flames.
We have the best and the brightest in this business. Some of the finest folks that exist in the business doing heroic work.
PG&E reporting an outage of a high-voltage transmission line was spotted right before the Kincaid fire sparked.
What appears to be a broken jumper on one of our transmission towers.
The investigation into what started both fires in Southern and Northern California continues.
And once again, that was Nadia Romero reporting. And we move now from fire to food, and a big problem growing on college campuses. It involves students going hungry. KPBS education reporter Joe Hong has more on the issue and what's being done about it.
A 2019 study conducted by the California State University System found that around 30% of its students don't know when they'll have their next meal. These students tend to have lower grades and struggle with more mental health issues. With their 10th annual food drive, San Diego State students hope to keep their classmates fed. Associated Students Vice President Dustin Adkins said in the last decade, their food drive has raised more than 2.7 million pounds of food.
With that, we've been able to have our own on-campus food pantry that last year alone was able to give out over 111,000 pounds of food. And then we keep 20% of the monetary proceeds right here on campus for our economic crisis response team. That's going to be for students who are facing food and housing insecurities, hooking them up with food vouchers and different things like that, whatever they may need.
The food drive will last through November 10th. Students and community members can deposit non-perishable food at the big red bins throughout campus. Joe Hong, KPBS News.
For those who might like to donate money online, go to sdsu.edu/AztecsRockHunger. To many, living in a nice community is important. Parks to play in, tables to play games on, even benches to sit and enjoy nature. And as KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen shows us, efforts are being made locally, but some say not enough.
It's a hot afternoon, and 5 men are sitting in the shade of some eucalyptus trees at a new gathering space in City Heights. They're playing Ladoo, a board game that's popular in East Africa. 1 year ago, the nonprofit City Heights Community Development Corporation installed benches and tables here at 50th and University. Since then, it's become a popular gathering space for the neighborhood's Somali community.
When you see people here, there's a lot more dignity brought to the community.
Anastasia Brewster spearheaded this project, which was approved under the city's new placemaking ordinance. She says when the community first approached the city with its idea, there wasn't any formal process tailored to small and simple projects like this one.
It would have had to go through a typical development permit, which would have been upwards of $20,000 to install picnic benches on city-owned right-of-way. And that was completely out of our budget and also just, frankly, not fair and inaccessible.
The permit under the new placemaking program cost only $1,500, and City Heights CDC got reimbursed under a city grant program. Brewster says the city does celebrate these kinds of projects and recognizes their value. But she adds the process could still be simpler. Her team had to hire a consultant to help with paperwork, and they decided not to include art in the project to avoid an extra bureaucratic hurdle.
The way that the current code is written, it doesn't allow for art to be installed in a placemaking project without a secondary permit through our Commission for Arts and Culture. And that is just another hurdle to just very simple community-driven work, which I think that with a creative solution we could change that.
Elizabeth Studebaker oversees placemaking in the city's Economic Development Department. In the year and a half since the ordinance was okayed, 3 placemaking projects have been approved. Another 4 are in progress. Studebaker says the city will be studying the ordinance's effectiveness, but that the application process is the way it is for a reason.
Most of that review process is ensuring that the applicants have a plan. And they can tell us what their plan is, and they can tell us what materials they're using, and they can tell us what the design is going to be before we do the ministerial issuance of a permit. And so that's all that review is like, okay, we understand you want to do something, give us the detail.
We're talking about giving the communities enough tools so they can create and enhance their own community.
Barry Pollard is executive director of the nonprofit Urban Collaborative Project. 4 years ago, his group attempted a placemaking project at the blighted intersection of Euclid and Imperial in Lincoln Park, installing benches and planter boxes. But city officials ordered them removed, saying he hadn't secured the proper permits.
When you get to the engineers, it's no, you can't do this. Nope, can't do this. You need this for a permit. You can't. And as I left every time, I felt defeated.
The ordeal kick-started the creation of the city's placemaking ordinance. Pollard ended up turning his efforts to a vacant lot 1 block away. It's now a community gathering space, which Pollard says has empowered the Lincoln Park community.
This has been a traumatized community. So things like this is what makes them feel better about themselves and gets the families involved in it.
With only 3 permits issued so far, Pollard says he'd like to see the city do more outreach to encourage placemaking. And he wants city officials to see the successful projects in person so they can more deeply understand their value.
That puts you to the game to play.
Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Fentanyl remains the deadliest drug in the United States, but in some areas of the country, meth is killing more people. Those new statistics were released in a report from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Nearly 39% of all drug overdose deaths were from fentanyl in 2017. That is a 10% increase from 2016. Heroin was the second leader of fatal drug overdoses. Research shows meth had a greater impact in the western half of the country, while more people overdosed and died on fentanyl in the east. If you're one of the millions of Americans taking medication to lower your blood pressure, you've probably got a routine to help you stay on top of taking it every day. But new research suggests there's an ideal time of day to take your medication. Melissa Rainey has more in today's Health Minute.
Trying to control your blood pressure? Taking antihypertensive medication every day can significantly lower your risk of disease and stroke. but research suggests taking it before bed could help you double down on the benefits. That's according to a study published in the European Heart Journal. Doctors often tell patients to take their blood pressure medication in the morning. But experts say there hasn't been significant research to show that's the best practice. To change that, a team of researchers studied more than 19,000 Spanish patients for over 6 years. All took antihypertensive medication. Roughly half took it in the morning. The others took it before bed. They found those who took it at night had nearly half the risk of dying from heart problems. They also reduced the risk of heart attack, stroke, and heart failure. More research is needed to confirm the results, but experts say these findings are promising and that taking antihypertensive medication before bed poses little risk. For today's Health Minute, I'm Melissa Rainey.
We're here with SDSU marketing strategist and co-founder of Bottom Line Marketing, Miro Kopik. Hi.
Hi, Maya.
Thanks for being here for us. Let's start with Facebook. It has been a rough week for them. Nearly every state in the country is now part of an antitrust case. Is this social network in danger?
You know, Facebook is really the poster child for the frustration that Congress and different regulatory agencies have with social media and online platforms. So let's start with Facebook. Originally, New York State announced an antitrust probe for anti-competitive conduct. And that probe started with 7 states in September. It has expanded to 47 states. That's on top of the Federal Trade Commission probe that was launched this summer in July after Facebook settled a $5 billion privacy case. And it's been a really rough week for Facebook this week because Mark Zuckerberg was on Capitol Hill and he faced really talking about his new Libra cryptocurrency, but legislators really started focusing on privacy issue. Facebook and these companies are a little bit afraid of what kind of regulation, because are they a media company or are they an enabling technology? And if you're a media company, you're regulated like a television network or a radio network. So even though he's invited a degree of regulation when he was here in April in Washington, I think the results can be kind of damning. And what they're going to do is if they're going to divest anything, it's going to be brands like WhatsApp and Instagram, and it would make Facebook a much smaller company.
And we'll obviously be following that. Another big tech story is 5G, and San Diego's Qualcomm is a key player, in fact, announcing on Thursday that they're going to focus on investing in 5G technology and innovators. Tell us about the investment. How big is it for this, frankly, exciting new technology?
Well, Qualcomm Ventures has been around for over 20 years. They've invested in over 350 deals in some really well-known companies like Zoom, Waze, and Fitbit. But they've set aside $200 million to invest in 5G enabling technology. So not smartphone technologies, but things that are a little bit outside of the smartphone, like smart cars, smart city sensors, factory floor robots, things like that. And they're calling it the 5G Ecosystem Fund because they're saying, you know what? They estimate that by 2035, over $13 trillion in value will be created by 5G technologies. And Qualcomm wants to be at the forefront of that. So Qualcomm is really taking and extending their lead in 5G technology. They just want to own the whole system. And it's a good thing for Qualcomm. It's a good thing for San Diego.
And a brand that we all know and love here in PBS stations, obviously, Sesame Street, is coming to Chula Vista. Tell us about the reboot of SeaWorld's Aquatica Water Park and what that means about the rebranding, what we'll see.
Well, SeaWorld Entertainment has had a long time affiliation with Sesame Street. And actually, they've been operating a Sesame Street park outside of suburban Philadelphia since 1980, and they're committed to actually roll out a second park by 2021, and they selected San Diego. And the Aquatica Water Park is an interesting site because it's big enough. They're going to literally port the same 18 land-based rides from Philadelphia to San Diego. So they're going to expand the territory. They're going to take out some of the more aggressive water rides that are geared toward teenagers and young adults. And they think that it's going to bring a lot of visitors from all of Southern California, from Mexico, and it's going to really make San Diego as a whole a very family-friendly city. Between Legoland, Sesame Street, the zoo, and the Wild Animal Park, it's kind of a nexus for young families with young kids, and then they can go to LA later.
Some exciting stuff to watch. Thank you so much, Miro Kopik.
Thanks, Maya.
Extreme fire conditions lead to more blackouts. Governor Newsom wants an explanation for high gas prices. And is the Convention Center vote a case of election shopping? Join us for the KPBS Roundtable tonight at 8:30.
Actors Ted Danson and Jane Fonda found themselves under arrest today. They, along with 39 others, were arrested at the U.S. Capitol during a climate change protest. Fonda called the protest Fire Drill Friday, saying the climate situation is dire and we have to, quote, behave like our house is on fire, unquote. This was her third climate protest arrest in 3 weeks. Abnormally hot weather and Santa Ana winds make for a dangerous combination. Meteorologist Daji Aswad tells us what we can expect for the weekend.
Pretty tranquil for tonight in terms of the weather. No precipitation, starlit skies. We'll continue to see dry conditions as well for Oceanside with low 47, cooling down to 54 in Borrego Springs and 46 in Mount Laguna. Dry weather sticks with us for Saturday, but our offshore winds not going to be as strong. However, temperatures are still on the warm side. 84 in Oceanside for your high tomorrow, 81 in San Diego, lower 90s in Borrego Springs and 71 in Mount Laguna. Still with limited moisture coming our way in terms of precipitation. Out to the middle of the country, snow going to be likely for the early week, but we remain on the dry side. Notice we have this trough here. That is the trough that's going to be bringing in some strong winds once again late Saturday into your Sunday as well as Monday, and that will allow for a great fire risk into northern as well as Southern California. Here in Southern California, we see gusts up to 70 miles per hour. As far as temperatures go into the extended forecast, the coast will be cooling down Sunday and continue to be a bit more closer to average into the extended forecast. 89 Saturday here in the inland areas, cooler Sunday with cloudy skies and much more sunshine Monday. We'll also notice that temperature trend cooling down into the deserts. 90s for Saturday, not as hot Sunday with a high of 84, mid 70s into the upper 70s into your Monday and midweek, and also looking at that temperature trend to cool down out to the mountains. But as I mentioned, Saturday and night into Sunday and Monday, we still have to keep an eye out for some breezy conditions. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm your meteorologist, Daji Aswad. Back to you.
And now for a dream opportunity for the kid in all of us. Ciclos Dias is a chance to run, play, and ride in the street without threat of vehicle traffic. Speak City Heights reporter Ebony Monet tells us how the event is set to bridge communities.
Weekdays on Adams Avenue in Normal Heights. You'll find a mix of bikes, cars, and people sharing the road. But on Sunday, the landscape will change.
We actually create a car-free environment on the entire route that connects here in Normal Heights to City Heights and El Cajon Boulevard as well.
Andy Hanshaw heads the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition that's behind Ciclos Dias.
Biking, it's walking, it's skating, it's strolling, it's dog walking. There'll be bands and music in the streets. There'll be activations on the streets, but there won't be cars on the streets.
The event goes from 10 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. The route is nearly 4 miles. People will travel from Normal Heights to City Heights, where a big family-friendly cumbia celebration is planned at Ferret 44, an open event space that's becoming a community hub.
We want people to literally sort of reclaim the streets for the day and be able to connect with communities that they may not have noticed, or things in these communities that they may not have noticed just driving by at 30, 40 miles an hour, when you can see things by biking, walking, skateboarding.
Ebony Monet, KPBS News.
It's all treats and no tricks in theaters as we head toward Halloween. KPBS cinema junkie Beth Accomando reviews a trio of films that all serve up tasty offerings.
From the director of The Witch comes another New England tale of dread.
What made your last keeper leave?
He believed that there was some enchantment in the light. Went mad, he did.
Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse feels as if it came out of a time capsule from a century ago. It delivers a crusty, musty, rusty, dusty tale of two men who slowly lose their grip on reality. This claustrophobic gem lets you feel the damp, rough texture of the lighthouse walls and the crumbling sanity of its two keepers. The Lighthouse is one of the best films of the year and, quite simply, a masterfully crafted work of art. More cinematic genius is on display in Bong Joon-ho's latest film, Parasite. The South Korean master serves up a wildly entertaining, yet poignantly complex tale of class and social dynamics. The film surprises at every turn and delivers a riveting piece of cinema. Genius of differing kinds is on display in the historical drama The Current War.
Automation, transportation, communication, and the man that controls that current controls that future.
Thomas Alva Edison is a charlatan who preys on the fears of the common man because I have the better system.
The film depicts the ruthless battle between Thomas Edison and George Westinghouse to determine whose electrical system would power the modern world. Nikola Tesla also makes an appearance as the film looks to how each man faced challenges and pursued innovation. The film proves surprisingly poetic and insightful as it sheds light on a fascinating moment of world-changing inventions.
I hope you brought your checkbooks.
So this turns out to be a great week to head out to the movies as a trio of terrific films open. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us tonight. Have a great evening.